One was built with a hammer and pure aggression. The other was an engineering masterpiece so complex it terrified its own mechanics. Yet both were born in the exact same year. In 1970, American high-performance coupe sales topped 500,000 units, and quarter-mile runs routinely broke the 13-second barrier. It was the absolute apex of the horsepower wars, yet this high point hid a looming collision with federal reality. The newly amended Clean Air Act of 1970 imposed strict new emissions limits for the 1971 model year, forcing the Environmental Protection Agency to establish its first national standards. Manufacturers had to add power-sapping hardware, such as air pump-type exhaust systems, directly to their heavy cast-iron blocks. Beyond tailpipe regulations, rising insurance premiums and early warnings of fuel volatility began shifting market priorities. Detroit could no longer assume that raw displacement and cheap fuel would sustain the market. The ground was shifting beneath the muscle car, turning performance from a simple engineering challenge into a costly regulatory battle. Across the Atlantic, a contrasting definition of automotive prestige was taking hold. At the 1971 Geneva and Paris motor shows, European manufacturers presented vehicles that rejected the American formula of low-cost, high-displacement cast iron. Continental buyers demanded a fusion of advanced engineering, high-speed touring capability, and technical experimentation. In this market, luxury meant sustaining high speeds on newly constructed motorways rather than chasing quarter-mile times. European consumers valued novelty and mechanical ambition, showing a high tolerance for complex maintenance in exchange for absolute refinement. This cultural divide meant that while Detroit fought to preserve traditional horsepower under regulatory pressure, European designers were busy re-engineering the driving experience from the ground up. Ford's racing budget took a hit at the end of 1970, forcing the abrupt cancellation of the legendary Boss 302 and Boss 429 track programs. Yet dealers still needed a high-profile flagship to draw buyers into showrooms. Simon Bunky Knudsen, the corporate performance champion who pushed the Boss concept, had already established a heavy-duty big-body Mustang design, leaving Ford with a single, temporary path forward for 1971. A one-year-only program centered on the 351 Cleveland V8. This heavy cast-iron engine became the heart of a pragmatic performance strategy. Instead of hand-built racing exotics, Ford engineers relied on parts commonality, using off-the-shelf components, standard fasteners, and robust iron castings. This kept manufacturing costs low while ensuring that any neighborhood mechanic could service the car using basic tools. The target buyer was someone who spent weekends tuning their own machine and buying parts from local catalogs. Straight-line speed served as a highly profitable business model. Detroit realized too late that simplicity had a different kind of power. Citroen met the challenge of high-speed grand touring with an uncompromising leap into the future. The SM arrived as a technological flagship, marrying French avant-garde design with a compact aluminum Maserati V6. Instead of traditional steel springs and vacuum assists, the SM relied on a central hydraulic system operating at nearly 150 bar. This single high-pressure circuit simultaneously managed the self-leveling hydro-pneumatic suspension, the speed-sensitive steering, and the power-assisted brakes. Citroen targeted wealthy, tech-minded buyers who willingly paid nearly $12,000 for this unmatched composure on the highway. But this complex system carried a fatal flaw. By linking every essential vehicle function to one centralized hydraulic loop, Citroen turned mechanical brilliance into extreme vulnerability. A single leaking O-ring or ruptured accumulator sphere could instantly disable the steering, suspension, and brakes. This dependency demanded a level of specialist maintenance and precision tooling that terrified conventional dealer networks from the moment the car left the factory. On paper, the baseline figures highlight two entirely different industrial priorities. For $4,914, the Boss 351 delivered 330 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque from its 5.8-liter V8. The Citroen SM, priced near $12,000, countered with a 2.7-liter Maserati V6 producing 170 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque. While the heavy Mustang used a 4-speed manual to drive the rear wheels, the SM employed a 5-speed front-wheel drive transaxle. But the story tells only part of the story. Real-world longevity depends on the service network as much as the hardware. The Boss 351 integrated directly into the existing American automotive infrastructure. Its cast-iron Cleveland Phi 8 shared most of its components with high-volume Ford passenger cars, meaning any neighborhood garage could perform repairs with standard wrenches and off-the-shelf parts. The Citroen SM, however, was an export orphan. Servicing its high-pressure plumbing and hand-assembled Maserati V6 demanded metric specialty tools, scarce imported parts, and highly trained technicians. When local dealers refused the work, a single ruptured seal transformed this engineering masterpiece into an undrivable paperweight. Today, the tension between enduring simplicity and fragile innovation still defines what we build. Do we value what lasts or what dares? Share your thoughts below.